Welcome back to Ross the Boss, brought to you by PointsBet. Matthew Lloyd will be back with us next Wednesday night on Footy Classified. Ross, let's go through this. Western Bulldogs and Port Adelaide. This is a huge game, and we've just spoken about top four positions, and it's back in play now that these are so significant, particularly for this mob, Port Adelaide.
A lot at stake. So Port Adelaide, if they win, they can get a home final, but crucial for the Bulldogs. We know they're having a bad run. We'll talk about their midfield. They've dropped off, but they can slip out of the top four and create an opportunity for Brisbane to go into the top four. So it's only a 24-point swing. So if they lose by 12 points and Brisbane win by 12, they're out. Stakes are incredibly high here at Marvel Stadium.
Let's have a look at Port Adelaide. I've called Port the last couple of weeks. Aliir, particularly in this game in the showdown, the showdown against Adelaide, was unbelievable.
Well, he's a revelation. He's a roll-off
That's
king,
against Carlton.
Intercept king. And it's Carlton, but he's done it all year. He reads the cues of the kick, the pressure up the field, and he mops them up. But this is him, what you've got to do. So the Bulldogs will be looking to isolate him and get him one-on-one. Take him deep, get him on a big man. So his body work is at the lower end. He really got exposed. Here it is against Adelaide as well. So if you can take him deep, you can get him one-on-one. And that's Norton. He struggles the one-on-one, but he's up around half-back flank. He can roll off, read the cues, so they need to minimise that strength.
So what about the press from Port Adelaide? Yeah. How are they playing? Because their pressure's been fantastic.
Well, this will stop, but this is the press. They're a real flat defence. They squeeze right up, and you can just see all the space out of the back. But the press wins. They get the ball and they go back through and they have an opportunity on goal. So they're putting everything into getting the ball back. They're a front half team, time in front half, squeeze, lock it in, and then go back in and score. But there's a real risk to that. When you've got a flat defence and you're squeezing up, if you get through the first line here, you're out. So you can just see here, Geelong, they'll go a torp up the middle, they head to the perimeter, so we freeze it there. It's a flat pressing defence. There's all space out the back. If you get through there, you basically score. So Geelong are going to get through and create, and you can see the Port Adelaide defender trying to get back, but from here, Geelong are in the box seat. So what teams do, if you get through that first layer of the press, you're out, and then Port is scrambling. And I think that's why they've struggled against the top four teams, because the top four teams press and the ability to think through their ball movement to get through the press is a lot stronger than the bottom teams.
This mob have got a great midfield and they're great with their handball and getting through those lines. Can they do it against Port Adelaide?
So we're just going to talk about the Bulldogs' ball use, high one-to-one. But their handballs, the press loves forward handballs, but they use it laterally. They'll use the width of the ground to go around the press and stop them coming forward at them, stop Port. And you can just see they transition the ball. They lose the full width and then they'll build it up and take opportunities. So you can just see from here, the kick goes in and then the Bulldogs will look. They won't kick it long to the perimeter for the punch to get back. They'll shift the ball and they'll make Port defend. So they'll take care of the press and then they'll pass it in and they'll isolate Aliir. So you can just see here, they look to go to the open side, but if Port are pressing, they'll get out on the boundary, they'll use the full width and they'll shift the defence around and they'll get it in between the lines. So I think that's the threat to Port Adelaide and that's what the Bulldogs do really well. I'm expecting the Bulldogs to bounce and their A-grade midfield to pop.
Ross, a couple of weeks ago, the Western Bulldogs are on top of the ladder. Their midfield was dominating and they've got the stitch in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you can just see there, the clearance differential gives them ground position. We know that's their strength, Liberatore and Bontempelli. But the inside 50 difference, Luke Beveridge spoke at his press conference. I know everyone's talking about our forwards and our backs, but we only had 35 entries. And you can see they were number one. They protected their defence, gave Norton and that all the opportunities in the world, but they've really dropped away. And last week they hit rock bottom. But I think subconsciously they're getting ready for the finals. Liberatore and McRae, and that will bounce. So I just think, and they'll fix their stoppage work. But English is a real key to that, and we'll have a look.
Yeah, well, talk about English, because I reckon Scott Lysette is such a big player for Port Adelaide. You get the finals and the ruckmen become dominant, don't
they? Well, they paid a big price to get him. He was on a big quid. They shifted him out of West Coast after a premiership. But he's a big, aggressive man. And English, after the concussion, has been a little bit quiet. I don't use the word timid, but he's building back the confidence. And he'll have to match this aggression, this follow-up, to give Liberatore and Bontempelli a real opportunity. And I'm not sure he got it, but what we spoke about, English, teams have taken him forward and made him defend. So he can take him forward and expose English on the spread, I think he'll try and do that.
Who wins?
I'm a Bulldogs man, I think, at home. I think Luke Begbie's been a great coach. And I just think Port haven't proven whether they can get over the top four, and I think the Bulldogs will handle the press.
OK, interesting stuff there. Right, Geelong and Melbourne, the other top four game. It's great, isn't it? The top four are playing each other the week before the finals. It's
and even
fantastic.
as us, as tonight, we're both analysts said, it's great when the strong signatures, the keys that... So if you're Alistair Clarkson, he'll sit and go, well, Geelong want this, let's do this to them. Or Melbourne want this, let's take it away. We need to do this. So we've just got 2 or 3 points on that.
May was out of the selected side, a late call to rest him up last week at the MCG. Lever played pretty well. He could become the first player to average 4 intercept marks in a year in the history of the stats.
Well,
Look
he
at
doesn't play anyone or he reads it really quickly. So we know all year we've stood up here, Lever and May. They'll lose stoppages knowing it's going forward to them. Lever and May intercept, right? So that's their strength. But and here it is here, they'll do it again. But then we're going to show you what's Geelong's strength. When you think of Geelong with the ball, what do? We all know. They're a bit slow, they control it. Let's have a look. So this is Geelong, 60 metres from goal. Some teams just put it in. 3 spare North players. So that could be Lever and May. They're saying, well, I'm not kicking it to you. We're going to build the ball up. We're going to make you defend. We'll give ground. We'll shift it around. We know we'll have 150 uncontested marks. And when we go in, it's going to be to a quality option. And Lever and May, we're going to eradicate your strength. So this is Geelong's strength. That's indisputable. And we just saw Melbourne's strength. And they'll build this up. Like, it's slow to watch, isn't it? But it's a great method. It's a great strategy. And they're making them defend. And in the end, I just have a nice little hit up here, inside 50, and Lever and May going, can you please kick it long? So I think they'll negate each other. So Geelong's strength, so I think will be taken away. So how it's going to be won? It's going to be who wins the contested ball and clearances to then go forward and get it in their half. I think it's going to be won and lost there. So Melbourne are very good, but it's Geelong's absolute strength, contested ball, ground ball, and the clearances. So Melbourne have got capacity, and I think that's where Max Gawn and the Reece Stanley battle comes in. So Geelong will be thinking, if we win the ball and we get it, they won't get it back off us because they want us to kick it in. So Melbourne are going to have to fix their contested work and their clearance work.
Let's roll some vision on this, and particularly with Geelong. I mean, you have your heart in your mouth if you're a Geelong supporter that he comes through OK and he comes through OK in this match.
Well, I think Dangerfield picked him up last week and carried him across the line. It's great to see he's driven and Cameron comes back in. But Max Gawn is a different proposition in there to playing St Kilda. So I think Reece, we really want Reece. I think Oliver and Petracca, and that's why they're the best teams in the comp. Like, if you're sitting there, you're going to say, who's going to win that battle? Well, I'm not sure because all depends how their midfield gets to work. But I think it's going to be won and lost around the clearance and contested ball because the other can negate each other's strength. That's what I think.
OK, there's the odds for the game. Who wins this game? At the moment, it's reasonably even, Stevens, according to PointsBet.
Well, it's down at Geelong. I think it's GM, HBA. So, and Chris Scott, I think the strategy and I think the contested ball work will get him across the line. OK,
let's have a look at the vision up here, the graphic. This is what we're looking at now. Brisbane and the Bulldogs. This is really important. It's an interesting one. Does Brisbane want to have a home final and finish 5th, or do they want to finish 4th and probably play away from home, but you finish 4th and get the double chance?
I'll put my coach's hat on. I know that, well, there's no bye. You take the double chance. You win, you're straight in with a week off. It's big time old rock and roll. So I think you take your double chance. So the Bulldogs, they'll be really set to win, and Brisbane will be setting themselves an opportunity.
And as you said, so it's plus 24 to the Brisbane. Doesn't matter how you get there.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
But they're playing the West Coast Eagles, who last year fell over the line and this year have fallen over 2 months before the line.
Well, they're a fascinating study, really, with the amount of talent. They won the flag. They went and got Tim Callig, 2 first-round draft picks. One of they gave up, and he was going to be a catalyst for another flag. They haven't quite delivered, but when you look at them, it's 2 out of their last 8, and there's been a couple of absolute shellackings against the top 4. Now, the Derby on the weekend, it was a great win by the Dockers, but the Dockers were a paper-thin team. Their coaching staff would have been really worried, and they come out, they kicked 8 goals. I think the stand and rule mark has really changed them. It's changed how they defend. They don't play a contested game, an outside game, and they want to use angles. But the stand the mark rule doesn't allow that. You can play more up-tempo and expose it. And I think... And then they go into state. I think they get into state and we go, geez, they're flat-track bullies and they don't deliver. You know, so is it old age? Is it attitude? Adam Simpson, he needs and he's been exceptional what he's done. In that town, it's very difficult, a lot of pressure, West Coast big club. But they can play finals. They've got the talent and the capabilities to beat Brisbane. But none of us are sure they're going to turn up with that mentally tough attitude.
All right, let's have a look at your final 8 then, according to Ross's tips going in. So Melbourne and the Bulldogs, the Cats and Port Adelaide are the top 4. So that's going to be interesting because at the moment we've got the Lions who'll play at home in Brisbane against Essendon, if that's the way it goes. These two could probably play in Tasmania. They won't be able to play at home Port Adelaide because they're below Melbourne, so they'll have to find a home for that. That could be in Tasmania as well.
But it's based on crowds, or you go to Tassie?
No, it's going to be... No, the AFL have told me tonight explicitly that they will stay on the higher-ranked team. So if it is Melbourne and Port Adelaide, you can't play in Melbourne, but you can play in Adelaide. They'll play somewhere else. They could play in Brisbane. They could play in Tasmania.
So I think they'll be really trying Kenny and his boys to end up around here.
If Kenny's boys win and go to there, they have home finals with big crowd at Adelaide right to the grand final.
Well, it's a sharp outcome, isn't it? Bodies are going to be flying. There'll be no mucking around this weekend.
All right, mate, that was fantastic. Good on you, Ross.
Pleasure to have you up
enjoyed
there.
Ross the Boss. There's the audition for the Carlton job. Just put that one in the mail.